Today we'll unveil the top 6 most terrifying weapons of World War II, each a testament to human ingenuity and the horrors of war. The weapons we're about to explore were not just tools of destruction, but also symbols of the sheer force and desperation that engulfed the world during those years. From machines that could level cities to innovations that changed the course of battle, these weapons are a chilling reminder of the past. But before we dive into the past, a quick reminder. If you're new here, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring more stories from history to light. Thanks for joining us on this historical journey. So let's get started. 6. Firebombing. Incendiary bombs were used by all the major powers of the war, with the Germans using them during the Blitz. Yet it was not until the Allied air campaigns over Germany and Japan that firebombing proved itself to be the most deadly weapon of the war. The death toll from the firebombing of Tokyo alone was greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. By the end of the war, the Allies had essentially run out of significant targets in Germany and Japan. Every major German city was almost entirely burned to the ground, and much of Japan was the same. In many of the cities hit by incendiary bombing, massive numbers of small fires would merge into a single fire, a phenomenon known as a firestorm. 5. The German Flak, ADDD, abbreviated from the German Flugabwehrkanone, or anti-aircraft cannon, was the most feared artillery weapon. Although the Soviet Katyusha and German Screaming Mimi rocket launcher systems frightened many, of Fritz and G.I. Joe, they were unguided weapons and were not as feared as the all-purpose German 88, which had a muzzle velocity of 2690 feet, 809 meters per second. As its name indicates, the gun was originally developed as an anti-aircraft weapon, but it was soon recognized that its firepower and relatively low weight would make it an awesome battlefield weapon. The 80D Neorm was so effective that it was mounted in a variety of German tanks in the second half of the war. 4. The V1. Despite the V2 being more powerful and having a greater range, the V1, Wehrgeltungswaffe, or revenge weapon, was psychologically terrifying. The missile was the first effective jet-powered weapon and made a stuttering humming sound that many likened to a motorbike. They were referred to as doodlebugs, or buzz bombs, based on the sound they made, causing anxiety among those in England and liberated areas of Northern Europe. Yet the worst part was the silence, since the engine would cut out before the missile fell to the ground with its nearly 2,000 lb 900 kilo high explosive payload. Just over 9,000 V1 rockets were launched at England, killing over 6,000 people. Thankfully, the weapon was wildly inaccurate. 3. Flamethrowers. In theory, nuclear weapons are limited by treaty. Meanwhile, people have sought to ban the use of landmines, although they continue to be widely used. Additionally, chemical and biological weapons exist, but are not used according to international convention. Flamethrowers. Despite the use of white phosphorus and napalm in airstrikes, many countries have voluntarily stopped using flamethrowers on the modern battlefield. Being burned alive is a widespread fear for most people, and some will even jump to their deaths to avoid it, as witnessed on 9/11. A 2 or more man team was required to effectively deploy flamethrowers in the field, making them cumbersome and difficult to use in fluid situations. The flamethrower saw heavy use in the Pacific Theater, where flamethrowing tanks, Marines, and GIs burned Japanese fortified and defensive positions. Towards the end of the war, when more Japanese soldiers began surrendering, the flamethrower was often used to coax the surrender of Japanese troops. So much has been previously written about the Tiger, but even the engine sound of an unseen Tiger was enough to spark terror among British, American, and Canadian soldiers. The Tiger tank's massive frontal and side armor made it nearly impervious to Allied tank guns, until later in the war after the development of guns and tanks capable of defeating it. The Tiger II was even scarier and had heavier sloped armor. 1. The atomic bomb. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki killed nearly 200,000 people and almost entirely obliterated both cities. Radiation would also kill thousands more over the following years. Despite previously vowing to continue fighting, the Japanese surrendered rather than face any more atomic bombs. The atomic bomb wasn't the most feared weapon of the war itself, but the Allies were terrified of Germany developing one. Of course though, after their use on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they earned their place as truly horrifying weapons.